It's a common human reaction to delay or ignore things we don't understand. But when it comes to home improvements, ignoring a problem might only make it worse. Here with me is Sean Johnson, co-founder of Approved Home Pros. So we're talking really in the segment, Sean, about fear. And there is a lot of it out there because it's a lot of money you're spending.
Yeah, we find it so common, and something I experienced before we started Approved Home Pros. We can talk about that in a second, but we find so many people are afraid to call somebody for either a repair or some kind of an upgrade because they're afraid of getting taken advantage of. And I think that comes from them just A, not knowing a lot about the trade or the industry, and B, there's been a lot of horror stories about people being taken advantage of out there.
Well, for me, I mean, I don't know that much about what goes on inside the work, the house. So when you call somebody and they say, hey, you also have a problem with this, it's hard to ignore that because you're not sure. So what do you do?
Well, here's a great example to kind of make this real for people. We recommend on a regular basis getting a roof inspection. It depends on how long it's been since you've had one, but 3 years, 5 years is a good idea. And people hesitate to get a roof inspection because they're afraid what they're doing is that roofer's going to come out for a free inspection and then, even if they don't have a problem, find one or create one. And the way you avoid that is going with a company that the reputation is stellar, that you know their history, you know the way they work, and that they don't have a history of doing that. But how do you find that out, right? So that's where we come in.
And yes, so was it based on you having some problems with that in your own life or your experience that you decided, I'd love to know that there was a network of pros that were people you could trust?
Absolutely. Heather and I, my wife, got taken advantage of a couple times by unscrupulous contractors, and I should have known better. I felt there was kind of that check you have, you're not sure, but I went with it anyway, and we got taken advantage of. Then when we moved to San Diego, I got to know Greg Cantor from Murray Lampert, our resident expert, and he became the guy that I could pick up the phone and call and say, hey Greg, I need this, who do you know? And then we all worked together and said, there's something here where we could create that network, the shows and the other things. And what we decided to do is be different than the consumer review sites, because those exist out there, the Yelps and Home Advisor and those kinds of things, where they are based on consumer reviews, which are valid, they're fine, but it's basically taking advice from a bunch of people you don't know. What we did is put expert reviews in that place, where experts are screening and vetting these companies, so you're relying on trusted experts to do that. The other thing that we don't do, opposed to those other companies, especially Home Advisor, is we don't collect your data, and we don't sell that to other companies, so you don't get bombarded by calls from other people. So that's why we started it and how we did it.
Well, what impresses me about being a part of this is that the pros use the other pros too, and then you hear about that all the time. So they're the best of the best, and they're using the same group.
They're using each other, and one of my favorite things, you don't see it on the shows necessarily, is when somebody wants to join and we submit them for approval, and you get 5 or 6 other pros saying, So we screen and we keep out the bad guys.
All right, sounds good. If there is an improvement or repair that you've been putting off or wanting to do, start with Approved Home Pros. When you use a pro in our network, you know you're getting quality work at a fair price.